Ah, Sonic Adventure, you lovable yet flawed masterpiece, and sometimes a broken gem. Let's see how Sonic's first true 3D jump to 3D is, besides that one game, yeah. In 1988, Sonic made the jump to 3D officially on the Sega Dreamcast. While some people call it a masterpiece, others still call it a broken mess. So after all these years, where does Sonic Adventure really stand? Has it aged like milk or wine? But before that, can you do the YouTube stuff, comment, like and sub, and no, that's out of the way, let's continue on. The Sega Dreamcast was Sega's swan song in the console market, and after learning from the Sega side's mistakes, they needed a killer game. That game was Sonic Adventure. From the opening cutscene alone, to Station Square being flooded and chaos attacking the city, the game immediately tells us it isn't a normal classic Sonic game. Everything was changing, especially the times. The world was bigger, the story was more ambitious, and Sonic himself had a new design, with the others of course. Honestly, I think the redesign was needed. Classic Sonic is iconic, but Adventure's version finally gave Sonic more personality instead of just being a cool mascot who stood around with his arms crossed. But Sonic Adventure wasn't just about Sonic anymore. This time we had 6 playable characters: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and 2 newcomers, Big the Cat and E102 Gamma. This is also where one of Sonic Adventure's biggest strengths and weaknesses appears. Some characters add a lot to the experience, while others feel like they're only there to pad out the game. Sorry Big, but we're gonna have some words later. So let's start at the most important part, Sonic himself and his story. Sonic's story is pretty easy. He's just chilling in Station Square, aura farming one day, off a building of course. He jumps off after seeing the police rushing somewhere and sees the main villain of the game, Chaos, who's in his basic form, Chaos Zero, and we'll see more forms of him later on. After a quick little fight, Eggman copies Sonic and does some aura farming while laughing with how we know nothing.
Nothing, fool! It's Chaos, the god of destruction!
But we'll learn about Chaos way later. After a bit of story and shenanigans, more of the characters get introduced, and Sonic will go through a level. Like Emerald Coast, he'll just be minding his own business, chilling, then Tails will come crashing down, so we'll have to go through the stage, rescue him.
Shut up, Tails!
And some part of Sonic's story is just to get the Chaos Emeralds. Eggman will steal them, rinse and repeat of course. Most of it is chasing Eggman and trying to stop Chaos, while running into the others of course. It's a basic story, of course with more details, but that's for you to play the game. And what's great is that Sonic connects all the stories together. While Sonic keeps the main story moving forward in the present, Tackle is one character who also appears who shows us the past and reveals everything that happened with Chaos. Together they all tie 6 campaigns together really well, but we'll talk about Tackle later. Let's move on to Tails. Tails' story is similar to Sonic's, but later on he gets his own plot about relying on himself and not so much Sonic. Like when he saves the city from Eggman at the end. Well, what's funny is that since Tails has his own story and his own perspective, he gets to fight Knuckles, but in Sonic and Knuckles' campaign they fight each other, and well, I guess Tails is just imagining it. Tails is just uninvited for some of these parts. And speaking of Knuckles, his story is different and ties into Chaos a bit more than the others. The Master Emerald breaks and Angel Island falls, so we see Chaos, the god of destruction, who needs all 7 Chaos Emeralds to turn to perfect Chaos. But Knuckles needs the Master Emerald shards, and Sonic and Tails are just aiming for the Chaos Emeralds. Though it is interesting to see Knuckles find out about his people a bit more, since he's the last kid left. We have Sonic Chronicles, but a certain artist makes that story and other aspects of it hard to do. But I think it did Sega a favor as it was a Dark Age game. But I do like Knuckles' story, it's very cool and fun. We also have Amy making her first playable debut, and after being a damsel in distress in Sonic CD. Most of her story is getting chased by robot Mr. X, as his bird just sort of follows her around and the robot wants it. Most of her story can be something that was, I'm just a girl, and just does whatever she wants, well, chase. But I do like towards the end, as she becomes more independent and doesn't rely on Sonic all the time. And the Sonic CD flashbacks were cool. Now the most infamous character, the original CEO himself, Big the Cat. Memes aside, he makes this game really miserable and I don't know why he's here. So Chaos is released after he drops down on Froggy and he absorbs him, so Big is just chasing Froggy, who also has a Chaos Emerald. After each stage he'll drop Froggy and it's just rinse and repeat. He does have a short campaign, but some levels can go from less than a minute to 15 minutes because of how awkward the fishing gimmick is, but more on that later though. And the last character, Gamma. Like Big, he's an all new character to the series. His story is pretty tragic as Gamma starts off pretty robotic, which I guess makes sense as a robot, but after meeting Amy and some events on Year Carrier, he has a change of heart, well, bolts. Each robot has a bird or a flicky as the series calls it, so Gamma just wants to set them all free. It becomes a little like Mega Man as Gamma shoots and we hunt down some robots, and Gamma was also in Mega Man 3. But one other robot stands out, Beta, Gamma's older brother. We see Beta at the beginning of the game being hyped up to be the best out of the E series, but we take him down pretty easily there. After being torn apart and upgraded, which makes Gamma go and save all the other robots. By the end of Gamma's story, after we take out the last robot, we see Beta, and after fighting they both take too much damage and that's it. But in their bird forms they reunite and they see the bird from Amy's story, which is nice if you go that route, but in the order you just go clockwise. So after beating all the stories and suffer through Big's campaign, we make it to the final story. After Sonic beats Eggman and Chaos, he's just chilling until Tails tells him that Chaos is back and Angel Island has fallen again. We go to investigate until Cole takes Sonic back in the past and we see what happens.
Never mind that. I beg you.
Throughout each story we see pieces of what happened, like the Cole befriending Chaos and the other Chows and the Echidnas killing the Chows. The Echidna tribe killing them sets off Chaos and he wipes them all out, except for Cole, but she seals them both in the Master Emerald. But since Eggman freed them both to get a station square instead of using the missile in Tails' story, we have this mess to deal with now. So Chaos goes to the city, destroys it, but I'm surprised no one dies, but it's a really cool and iconic moment seeing the destruction. But since Chaos uses the negative side of the emeralds, but Sonic uses the positive side of the Chaos emeralds and turns into Super Sonic. The final battle is pretty iconic, especially with Open Your Heart by Crush 40. It's an easy fight as he goes down 6 hits. After that, Chaos and Cole go into heaven. So committing genocide gets you into heaven, or just getting your ass kicked by Sonic changes your ways and gets you into heaven. Remember guys, you can't fix her, but just get the 7 Chaos Emeralds and Sonic will fix it for you. After that happens, the characters just wait around awkwardly and cut to the credits. So that's the story, a pretty simple one but more in depth than the Genesis, but focuses more on the characters and their growth. Only downside is Big, and that's Sonic Adventure's biggest weakness, but there's more to besides him. The game can be very glitchy, you'll be running and sometimes Sonic will fall through, but we'll save the flaws for later, so let's talk about some of the gameplay and the highlights. Sonic levels are the biggest highlight of the game as they're all funny and unique, except for parts of Lost World. That didn't age well, especially with the camera and that diamond light gimmick. Lost World isn't a good fit for Sonic, especially with that game as well, but that's for later. Sonic does control great and the levels mostly fit around him. Just parts where you're running straight feel a little hard to control Sonic as I'm always praying I don't fall off randomly, game being, you know, as it is. I love Emerald Coast, the stage is fun and the world chase scene is very iconic, especially with that stage transition. Ice Cap is fun mainly just because of the snowboarding section, I really like it. Red Mountain is also fun, same with Twinkle Park, I like the little section at the beginning, the car. Sonic gets 10 out of 11 stages here. Hot Shelters for Amy, Big and Gamma. It's similar to Final Egg, but the stages I don't like are Casinopolis and Lost World. Both kinda stop the pacing in some parts and the gimmick in Casinopolis isn't fun as you have to get a lot of rings to pass. Knuckles and Tails version is pretty fun, but I do like the snake in Lost World, that was pretty fun though, it does get a lot of hate. I just don't like that light gimmick. Tails has his racing gimmick, but it's hard to call it that as the AI is pretty dumb and slow. His levels are quicker versions of Sonic, and his campaign is only half of the length of Sonic, only having 5 levels. I think his best level is Speed Highway. It's a nice level, and I like how it ties into the stories, as Tails has got to stop Eggman from nuking the city. I mean, bombing the city would make more sense than reviving an ancient water god. Since Tails goes on the same adventure for 90% of the game, we do have to do Sky Chase again, and it's the exact same. It's fine, but it's no Star Fox. I also like the sandboarding section, it's pretty fun. The extra bonus level is always fun, but like Sky Chest can get repetitive, so that's why I mentioned it twice. Knuckles has some of my favourite levels, and it's a shame Sonic Adventure 2 doesn't have the same radar. For now, let's enjoy it, and any emerald that's nearby will show up if you're close by. Some are hidden or summon enemies. I think these levels are amazing for Knuckles and suit him very well, way better than Sonic Adventure 2. Tails has 5 levels and he has the same too, and I like all of them. I can't really think of a bad level for Knuckles. Amy is also a bit like Sonic, but instead she's getting stalked by the robot version of Mr. X. The stages are fine, but her hot shelter drags, and sometimes fighting Amy's can be a bit of a pain with her hammer. But if you get a full sprint, she'll do a longer jump, and if you get a time rush like how in Mario in Sonic Adventure. She only has 3 stages, and the campaign is probably the shortest, but it's fine, and nothing too bad. But now, the most infamous part of Sonic Adventure, Big the Cat. His gimmick is fishing, and it would be fine if it was optional, but damn, it's so boring. The stages can either go for 1 minute or 15 minutes with how bugged it is sometimes. He has 4 stages and it's 4 too many. The last character is Gamma, and his stages are fine. He has a countdown, so you gotta get as many enemies in a shot as possible to extend the time limit. Each stage will have a boss and they go down very easily. He only has 5 stages and they're all fine. Kinda funny how Final Egg is his first level. Shouldn't it be Hot Shelter as, you know, Final Egg, and he goes to the egg carrier for it? But I'd say Gamma is fine, but he's more famous for his plot than his gameplay. I also want to talk about the bosses very quickly, as some are very easy to take out, like the rival fights and the famous "Oh no."
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Or the Egg Hornet and Chaos Fall for Sonic. Sonic can destroy the bosses very easily, but he does get off the hardest bosses, the Egg Viper. It's really challenging, but when you learn it, it's really fun. But it can be a little bit glitchy at times, but it's a great fight and probably the toughest boss in the game. Some do get repetitive, like having to fight Chaos 4 3 times as Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, and the same for Chaos 6 as you have Sonic, Knuckles and Big. But the bosses are more for the story, but they're very easy, and each character will fight a boss or two. It was quite advanced at the time, and these parts made the game more cinematic, as the Dreamcast could handle of course. The opening is great with the city being destroyed and seeing all the characters, but one thing that aged like milk was the in-game cutscenes. Yeah, not the best, but they tried with what they could at the time. But video games were new, so it's fine. In Sonic Adventure 2 they're a lot better, though they are fun to watch and add some charm to this game. Though the voice acting can be hit or miss. Sonic has a great voice and so does Eggman. Knuckles and Amy are fine, nothing too bad. Tails' voice, I really don't like it, but they tried, and same with Big, and to call sounds a little off at times. But for the first Sonic game with voice acting that isn't with arcade game, it's pretty good. But one thing that definitely holds up this OST, and damn, is it amazing. There's so many great and amazing tracks here, like probably the most iconic song from the game, Open Your Heart, It Doesn't Matter, Unknown For Me, and Gamma's theme. I really can't think of a bad OST and all worth checking out, especially the stage themes. There is one feature, but that's for its own video, but I'll mention here quickly the Chow Garden. Even though it's optional, it is very iconic and it should be brought back soon to the series. Maybe in the next Sonic game, who knows. But if you're watching from the future, let me know if I was right or wrong. So that's Sonic Adventure 1, a really great game that set the formula until Sonic 06 came around and scared Sega off from it. But at least with Frontiers they're doing better and they're getting there again with multiple playable characters. But Sonic's first real attempt, it's an amazing game with a few flaws of course. Some are just from the era that it came out in, and some are just Big the Cat, that big asshole, or really weird glitches. But what do you guys think about Sonic Adventure? I think it's an amazing game. Did it taste like wine or milk for you? Let me know down below if you made it here, and if you could do YouTube things like comment, like and subscribe, I'd be really grateful and happy. Until next time everyone, take care and see you later. Bye bye.